Okay, so my search history today, this is how boring I am. More Miles socks, because I'm putting just holes in all my socks all the time. Ashwagandha supplements, because I'm getting low. And Azaro Porom Intense clone fragrances, because I don't think you can get that one anymore. But let's be honest, there's a lot of people that are searching fragrances. And actually, what I found today is I wanted to find out what the most searched questions were. What are the questions that people are looking to find answers to? So I asked an AI app, basically, can they tell me the top 10 questions that people are searching regarding fragrances? And they've given me a list of them. And I'm going to try and get through them as much as I can. I'm going to try and answer them to the best of my knowledge. Of course, I may need your help to comment below and if you agree or disagree with me and share your own thoughts. But let's go through the 10 questions and see if I can answer them the best I can. So question one was, how do I make my perfume last longer? Well, that's a very, very hard question to answer because it depends what fragrance you've got. Obviously, you can have some nuclear strong fragrances or you can have some that are a little bit more gentle. Now, obviously, if you've got one fragrance and you just want that one to last longer, my advice would be spray your clothes because normally it lasts longer on clothes. The main reason I find one of the main issues I have is when I'm sweating because I'm doing a lot of exercise and I'm quite a sweaty person. That's when fragrances really, really wear out. So my advice would be spray your clothes on top of spraying your body. That's one thing. You can also buy these extra light fragrances that don't really smell of anything. I believe they're called eccentric molecules. Basically, it's like layering. So you put that fragrance on. I think it's like ambroxan. It's one of the notes, and if you spray on top of that, it should last a bit longer. But also, just spray a lot more. Now, I've just sprayed 3 or 4. This is a super strong fragrance anyway. But there's no two ways about it. I may joke now saying talking through this, but yeah, just spray a little bit more. The other thing, of course, what you can do is take it with you. I always think if you want it to last a bit longer, take it with you. Just keep topping up, really. But yeah, it really depends on what fragrance you buy. I always think look online. There's plenty of things you can find online about which fragrances are the strongest or beast mode fragrances. And I certainly like those beast mode fragrances, particularly in the high heat at the moment. You don't want anything too overpowering, but you want to make it last. So yeah, my advice would be look online for what's the strongest fragrances. Obviously, try and make it fit within the scent profile you want. Keep spraying, top up through the day, and ultimately spray your clothes. And then it should last a little bit longer than hopefully what it has been originally. So why do perfumes smell different on different people? Well, I think skin chemistry is the main reason, but it also can change on you. So as I was saying earlier, when it's a hot summer's day and it's sweaty, I can almost feel the sort of sweat mixing with my fragrance. And even when I do a shower test sometimes in my videos, sometimes if you've had a shower and you've been washing your arm, you can just change the way the fragrance smells. As also why it smells different on different people, men and women smell different. So I know from, when you've been on school trips or whatever, you would know the smell of a boy's room and a girl's room. They smell completely different. There's different scents. I don't know if it's pheromones or no expert with this sort of thing. But yeah, skin chemistry plays a part and just the conditions you're in as well. The conditions you're in definitely play a part. So I think that's the main reason why people smell different. That being said, I'd never spray a tester strip either. And that's the main reason because we're not made of cardboard. So when you go to a shop, spray yourself. Don't worry about if they want you to spray the test strip. Spray yourself. See how it performs on you for the rest of the day. And yeah, that's my advice. That being said, as a general rule of thumb, how different is it really? Let's be honest. Let's look at the popular fragrances around today. Most people like those ones, and the compliment getting factor of them seems to be the same or as much, regardless of what your skin type is. Whether you're someone who likes Dior Sauvage and you're a young male or an old male, you'll probably still get compliments. So yeah, I don't know how important it is, but yeah, skin chemistry is the main reason I believe. Question three was, what's the difference between perfume types? Well, it's almost like I've come prepared because what I've done is I have brought, as you saw, some fragrances down and they all have slightly different strengths. So what I've got here is an eau de cologne, so the Hermes fragrance Eau de Rhubarbe Éclat. Now, the reason they're named different is the concentration of the perfume. So an eau de cologne has the least concentration of perfume. Then you have an eau de toilette. Then you have an eau de parfum, like this one. So this is Bentley for Men Intense. And then you can also get like extrait de parfum or pure parfum, which is the strongest perfume content. So it's essentially the content of the fragrance, the perfume. Does that mean they're necessarily stronger? No. As a general rule of thumb, yes, it does. Eau de colognes don't tend to last as long. They tend to be one you just throw on, almost like a bit of a splash in the summer again. And that's when you tend to find your more summery citrus scents like that. And then your winter scents tend to be those more heavy notes, those extracts. And yeah, they tend to be a little bit more expensive and a bit more complex in scent profile. But I always say this, don't look too much into it, because this Ted Lapidus, which is a retro fragrance, is super strong. And a lot of retro fragrances, whether they're an eau de cologne, eau de parfum, they're super strong. So I would just say that's the only reason. It's the concentration of the perfume in the fragrance. But yeah, they are, it's a rule of thumb. It certainly doesn't mean that it's necessarily stronger. This is a strong fragrance. This is a nuclear fragrance. That's an eau de toilette. That's an eau de parfum. So yeah, just tread carefully with that. It's kind of like I said a minute ago. Best to try it in the shop if you're not sure. So what are fragrance notes and how do they work? Well, that's a very tough question to answer. But essentially, fragrances have different levels or different tiers of notes as well. So you have the top note, you have like these middle notes and the base notes as well. And essentially, those top notes are like the part of the fragrance you smell straight away. So I've got one here, Bogos Vibrant Leather Summer by Zara. It's just this really, really sweet pineapple scent. But as it dries down, it becomes a little bit more aquatic, a bit more fresh. You maybe get, I don't know, a bit of like a vanilla tinge to it as well. I don't think particularly so much, maybe coconut, something like that. But essentially, it's the way the fragrance changes. You tend to find the lighter notes tend to be at the top, so fragrances that have a sort of citrus top, and then it begins to be the sweeter ones at the bottom. You tend to see a lot of tonka bean, sandalwood, vanilla, leather at the base of the fragrance, because they're the notes that will last longer. They're the ones that you're going to smell. Top notes, though, again, they might be things like bergamot, um, lemon, anything like that, really, orange. And yeah, they just kind of give you that nice fresh opening, but they'll be gone within 2 or 3 minutes. So yeah, that's kind of really how notes work. Some just last longer than others. I always, to be honest, base a fragrance more on those base notes, because that's what I'm going to be wearing for most of the day. So anything that's got vanilla, tonka bean, any sort of caramel, benzoin, it's a thumbs up from me. Okay, so question 5. How should I store a fragrance to preserve it? Well, to be honest, you want to keep it away from sunlight, and that's the main thing. So I'm walking upstairs now to show you where I store my fragrances. Thankfully, my room's not really well, it's not really got a lot of direct sunlight in it. Um, but yeah, that's probably the main thing. Try and keep it in a cool area as well. Don't store it in like a bathroom where it's going to get steamy a lot. So I tend to leave my fragrances outside when I'm, having a shower, and then I'll just spray when I come back in. But I've got some fragrances over there. Again, nowhere near the window over there. And then essentially, I have these drawers that have my fragrances in. So again, away from direct sunlight. They're not going to leak there. Keep them upright if you can as well. So yeah, just out of sunlight, out of the steamy room temperature, and yeah, just make sure they're standing up, because some bottles do leak, and that's how I store mine anyway. So how to choose a fragrance that sort of suits your personality? Well, that's subjective, isn't it? Because ultimately, what you gravitate towards will be what you want, and that will be your personality. So, what I would say is, as a general rule of thumb, people who like to dress up a bit tend to wear those sort of more leathery notes. Older people are always sort of linked to Aramis and things like that, and maybe that is what you want to wear. I'm someone, as you can see with what I'm wearing, I wear sporty stuff with very bright colours, so I tend to gravitate, just because I'm doing so much sport a lot of the time, towards the aquatic sort of fragrances, because I just feel they're more pleasant in the gym. I don't really want to wear fragrances like this one, which is a Tom Ford Black Orchid clone, where you've got things like dark chocolate in it. It's too heavy for the gym, and it's a bit off-putting. You don't really want to be choking yourself out as much as anyone else. So yeah, I'd say if you're a gym goer like me, you probably want a more fresh aquatic citrus fragrance, which you'll lean towards anyway. But if you're someone who wants to go for a night out, you might think, actually, I'll go for something a little bit sweeter. So I have a clone here of Thierry Mugler's Amen. And yeah, that would be, to me, I'd rather wear that in the evening, or a Nasomato Baronda, because it's just a little bit classier. So yeah, I don't think there's necessarily anything particular that you need to look for. You'll gravitate towards what you like ultimately, and that may change over time. My opinion on fragrances has changed massively over time. Ones I didn't like, I like now, and vice versa. So yeah, just I would always say just try and try and try, and yeah, just find what works for you. It's not anyone else's opinion. It's your opinion. There's no right or wrong answer to fragrances, and that's why I love talking about them. So how do I apply or spray perfume correctly? Well, there's no right or wrong way. As we said, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're somebody who's bought a million fragrances or just got your first one. How you spray and how you use it is completely up to you. Now, I tend to find with me, so I'm going to use my sort of signature scent fragrance here, Terre de Hermes, the original. Now, I find the best thing to do is spray your pulse points. So things like this, maybe your neck. Just be a bit careful in the sun with your neck, particularly if the sun's out. You can sting quite a lot. And then I just tend to do about, now that's a lot by the way, I do 12, and sometimes I've even sprayed between my kneecaps before. But yeah, just spraying on your wrists, maybe between your elbow, around your neck, back of your, behind your ears sometimes, but you can get spots with that. And then on the clothes. You've got to be a little bit careful with clothes though, because as you can see, some juice has defined colour to it, so you just be careful. You don't want to stain any clothing. But if you've got dark clothes like this or ones you're not worried about, spray them. As we were saying earlier, it will last a bit longer. But on skin, neck's going to be where I think things kick up a little bit more, behind the ears and just your pulse points. So that's my way of doing it. There isn't a correct way, in my opinion. It's just what suits you and your lifestyle. So yeah, spray as much as you want, wherever you want, as long as it works for you. So can you layer and mix perfumes together? Well, again, you do whatever you want. It's up to you what you do. Now, do I? I actually don't. I always think if I've got a fragrance, I really like them as they are. I like to appreciate them as they are. But you can have some very boring sort of plain scents, or I don't want to say boring, but just very generic sort of smells. So um, for me, think of an example, I've got Brut Original, which I love. It's just a plain sort of soapy scent. You could mix that with something a little bit more peppery if you really wanted to. It's not going to change it too much. So what do I do if I'm going to mix or layer or do any of those things? Well, what I tend to do, so going back to my signature scent, Terre d'Hermes, I tend to buy a clone of that. So say I really like this, but I don't want to take this to work. This is huge. I'll take this and top it up through the day. And that's the best thing to do, because this clone fragrance is an amazing. I wouldn't know the difference. I genuinely wouldn't know the difference. The only thing is it doesn't last as long, but that's fine. On a hot day like today, I can put this in my bag and I don't need to worry about it at all. So that's fine. I also have, as I was saying earlier, a clone of Amen, clone of Tom Ford Black Orchid, and yeah, I've also got a clone of Bronda as well. So you can get plenty of clone fragrances, and that's what that's what I do. That's what I recommend. If you really like a fragrance, I would just buy a clone of it. I don't mix them just because I think sometimes it can be confusing. But should we mix one just for this video anyway? So Rhubarb Eclat, love that scent. And let's go for one that's a bit sweeter, just to be a bit different. Let's go for the Amen clone. See, for me, what I just find with that, and maybe it's just me, I find that the fragrance that's stronger just overpowers the other one anyway. And I can't really smell the Rhubarb Eclat. And to be honest, if I can, it's just become this kind of alcoholic bomb, really, like a hand sanitizer. So, yeah, for me, I wouldn't do it. But again, it's not up to me. It's you. It's your fragrances. Find what works. Eccentric molecules, though, definitely do fragrances that kind of don't smell of anything. So you can hopefully get a bit more projection. But yeah, as for mixing, not for me. So how much fragrance to wear, and is it possible to wear too much? Well, again, it's up to you. If you're not worried about offending people, if you're not worried about, being super strong in how you smell, then no, it doesn't really matter. It's what you perceive. And that's really important, because what you'll read is you'll read reviews that some people say a fragrance is super strong and others that will say it doesn't perform very well at all. This one I know gets that quite a lot. I've seen people say it lasts about half an hour, and then other people saying it's lasts on their clothes and stuff for days. It's your own perception of things. Your own perception is what matters. All I would say is just be aware of the environment you're going in, really. If you're going into an office and you're wearing a scent that you can tell is really strong and it's quite aggressive. I wouldn't do it personally, but it's up to you. Just in my opinion, it might be too much for other people, so I'm just thinking it might be too strong for others. But again, there's no written rule about it. You know, I spray, as you've seen, I probably would spray. So I wear this today as my signature scent. I've got loads of sprays on my top already. I'd probably do this on top of the fact I'm going to spray my skin. So I probably do about 30 sprays per time I apply a fragrance. But again, when I'm wearing something like this, which is expensive and it's a more concentrated perfume, I certainly don't spray that much, maybe 4 or 5 times. So yeah, just consider obviously your price range and yeah, just how much you want to be noticed, and then you'll be fine. Some people just want just to smell clean and fresh, and in that case, you probably don't need to spray a lot. But obviously, concentration of perfume matters, and probably how much you've paid. Last question, I've managed to come outside onto the seafront because I thought a change of scenery for it would be nice. So yeah, the reason actually is I'm editing and I realised I hadn't done one of the questions. Do perfumes expire or go bad? I think they would over time. I've seen people who have had bottles of fragrance, like vintage bottles, and the coloration of it has completely changed. But again, you're talking years and years. Obviously, alcohol is in pretty much every fragrance, I believe. So, yeah, they'll last a long time. I think sometimes one of the main things I've noticed, again, if you've got it in high heat or whatever, they can maybe dry out a little bit. But again, because it's alcohol based, they don't really. I mean, I've had fragrances that have, I mean, I don't tend to have any more. I think the longest I've probably owned one is about 5, 6 years, and it didn't change. But some people do say the notes do, mix a bit more over time or whatever. But I think if you're someone who's looking at it, you're probably not having that many fragrances. You're going to have a lot in your collection to have that issue, I believe. So, in essence, yes, but the reality is, it's not going to happen. It's not something you need to worry about. And if it was, ultimately they would put dates on fragrances. So yeah, don't worry about that. That is not something to worry about at all. So yeah, there we are. I've answered the 10 sort of fragrance questions that have been most searched on the internet. I hope I answered them correctly anyway, in the best way I can. But of course, if anyone agrees or disagrees, more importantly, please comment below if you've got any other opinions, and I'd be really, really interested. Apologies for the very weird thumbnail, by the way. I've kind of AI'd it and asked them to make it for me, and I've turned into like an avatar. So yeah, very, very strange. And once again, thank you to anyone who did watch my live stream and join me this morning for that. It was just very much a trial run. We will set up a proper fragrance chat at some point so we can talk about some fragrances that maybe I haven't tried and yeah, I can recommend for you as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. It is a beautiful summer's day out there. I'm hoping everyone's enjoying this summer, and hopefully I'll catch you later for some more fragrance videos.